Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Again, this is Stacy Miller. It is being co-hosted with the Farmers Market Coalition in partnership with the Wallace Center for Sustainable Agriculture, with support from the USDA AMS Farmers Market Promotion Program and the USDA Risk Management Agency. I'm really delighted that we have so many people joining us, and this is a really important topic. According to the USDA FNS, the Food and Nutrition Service, only about 16% of farmers markets operating in 2008 offered SNAP EBT to their customers, although this number is, of course, growing. And there's growing interest among markets to begin accepting SNAP benefits. And as many of you have learned, many folks learn that there are many technical aspects that require a lot of time, a lot of energy, and an investment of money to make the program run smoothly over the long term, which is certainly a challenge. And one of the fortunate things about the USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program is that it's making a concerted effort to help more markets get EBT-related projects started with grant funds. And FMC itself has entered into a partnership with the Community Food Security Coalition on a farmers market SNAP research project. And that project will publish a report with recommendations for improving SNAP use at farmers markets. As I said, this is the last in this summer's webinar series. And I do want to point out that on our website at farmersmarketcoalition.org/information-marketplace, you'll be able to access archived webinar recordings along with this one starting next week once the recording gets up. All of the PowerPoints themselves and the handouts will be in PDFs, which you can download, share with your other colleagues, and we definitely encourage you to do so. To state and regional organizations who are eligible to apply for up to $500 to help offset costs of workshops and trainings for market managers at a state or regional level. So please visit that page on our website. I will make sure that that link gets put up here on the screen at some point in this presentation, so that you can look into that application, see if your organization might be eligible. The deadline to apply for that, I believe, is November 15th. And then a bit of housekeeping. As I said, if you can help minimize background noise by muting your phone, you can do that by pressing the mute button or pressing so. The PowerPoint presentation is where you can type in questions or comments throughout the presentation. If anything kind of strikes you, you've done something similar, you want to ask a question, feel free to do so, and then you'll notice you can also choose who will see that question, whether it's a presenter or everyone can see your question. And then next to that window, to the right of that window, you're going to see a file share pod, and that is where you will be able to download handouts for each of the respective presentations. There'll be a set of handouts for Diane's presentation, and then a set of handouts window. There'll be a window that pops up there. You won't see it immediately pop up in the front of your screen, but it will come up in your internet browser if you have that open, where you'll be able to download that onto your computer. So I'd like to just introduce our presenters really briefly, and I appreciate your patience while I go through all of that housekeeping. Both of these presenters are demonstrated leaders in the farmers market community. Many of you may know and have met them. Diane is the executive director of the Farmers Market Federationization that they've been able to bring in, I believe, over $400,000 in SNAP and SNAP incentive dollars for farmers markets in the last year, which is just phenomenal. And Mike Hurwitz is the director of Greenmarket in New York City, and that's a network of 49 farmers markets throughout the city that they have learned as a team there that if you build it and they will come does not necessarily apply to EBT. They've done a really great exemplary project manager. She oversees all the work related to food access initiatives at Greenmarket. supervising all the markets that accept EBT. And she and Mike are going to be co-presenting about how Greenmarket has integrated SNAP into their markets. So if you have any questions in the meantime, as I said, please type them in, and then we can do a little bit more open Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to go let Diane take the mic. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Stacy. As Stacy mentioned, I run the Farmers Market Federation of New York, and on a statewide basis, we run an EBT program. We bring the farmers markets in the state that are interested into the program and help work with them. So what I want to talk about is how we set up our program and how we run it in the state to help our markets.
Stacy, we could hear you very well, but we can't hear this new person. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me see if I can talk a little bit clearer. Can you hear me now? Hello?
I can hear you pretty well.
No,
Okay,
we could hear you very well, but this new person, we couldn't even hear her name.
Okay.
Okay. When we started to build our program, we wanted to look at, of course, what would work with our markets when they try to work within their market mission. And as we look at, our market mission, we know that all of our markets want to build their market community. They want to make sure that they grow their markets to benefit their farmers. They want to make sure they provide access to their consumers, and they want to build their relationship within their community. So we know that adding EBT to our farmers markets certainly helps to fulfill the missions of our markets and add sales opportunities, but it's not the easy thing to do. It's very difficult, can be very difficult anyway, to add EBT to our market, and especially if we're going to do it on a statewide basis. So let's go through some of the steps that we went through to develop that program. We first wanted to talk about the preparations for the program. The terminals are very expensive. The fees can add up. So we knew that we had to find a way to take care of that for them. We looked at different sources of funding, and these are some of the sources here that you could look at now. There's USDA, Farmers Market Promotion Program. Look at your state departments of agriculture, the agency within your states that operate the food stamp program, now known as the SNAP program. If you hear me say food stamps, it's because in New York State we have not yet adopted SNAP as a term, and we have no plans to do that for a while. So I'm probably going to flop back and forth between the term food stamp and SNAP. But you also want to look at private foundations and look at especially community partnerships. They're very helpful in getting you funding for your program and helping you to administer the program. Through USDA AMS funding, this was our initial pilot program, and eventually we were able to work directly. In looking at preparation, we also needed to determine how we were going to operate the system. We are running a central terminal system with tokens, and as you run tokens, it's a script system. You need to get a waiver from the Food Nutrition Service at USDA. Our partnership with our state agency for the food stamp program, OTDA, required if you're going to run a token system or any kind of a script system that you do get that waiver. If you look in the file share pod, you will see there's a farmers market incentive waiver checklist. That's one of the things you need to do to be able to use incentives, but it also is something you need to do to use the script system so that you can look at that. That'll help you get the permissions that you need. So if we look at the next slide, once we had our funding in place, the next thing we had to do is look at who we were going to use service. So we had no choice at that point. But back in 2007, there were a lot of choices, and we knew at that point we wanted to go back out and look at the options and see if there was a better provider for us and a better term for each service provider. We went out and looked at a number of them. So what was the terminal they were going to offer us? What was the model? Was it the latest generation? We wanted to make sure if we were going to start providing new terminals to all of our markets, we wanted the most up-to-date generation. We'd already been through about 4 generations at that point, and we were ready to, be with something that was up to date. We also wanted to know what was the network that the terminals operated on and what was the coverage across the state. Our older terminals were operating on we wanted to know for us. We wanted to look at the cost of the equipment, and when we looked at the cost, we wanted to look at rental options versus cost of outright purchase. When we looked at some of the rentals, if you looked at the useful life of the terminal and looked at the monthly rent on the terminals, it was actually cheaper to purchase them outright. So you want to look at all of those things with each of the different providers. We wanted to look at warranties, what kind of warranty could we get on each of the terminals, and what would be the cost of repairs if the warranty ran out. We also wanted to look at upgrades. As we know, these terminals are upgraded we wanted to look at service fees. This was something that we could compare apples to apples. It was pretty simple. We looked at the wireless fee, what was the cost of wireless service. We looked at EBT transaction fees, customer service and statement fees, batch set the system, option of adding debit and credit. And was it optional or was it mandatory? This was important to us. Some of our markets wanted debit and credit, some of them didn't. So we didn't want it to be mandatory. We were looking for optional. Within the debit and credit option, we wanted to look at all of the costs, the discount rates, transaction fees, minimum monthly fees, and all of the assorted fees that are part of the debit and credit system, the statement fees, batch settlement fees, chargebacks, PCI compliance fees. Those options, could we put our terminals on closure once the seasons were done? Most of our markets here in New York do not operate year-round. We wanted to be able to stop the fees during the off-season. Some service providers charge a fee for that. If that was the case, we wanted to know what that was so that we can compare again across all of the different providers. Markets, because that's how many we have here in New York. So I wanted to know that they were willing to negotiate with me so that I could make the best possible program decisions for our markets. Some of the providers were willing to negotiate, some of them were not. One actually got very angry with me for not taking their one-size-fits-all program. Also, what was the response to my inquiries? If they were open to negotiations, how rapidly would they get back to me when I had questions for them or when they needed to check with their higher-ups to see if they could do whatever it was I was requesting? As I mentioned, we started this process in 2001. Another thing was I needed to have access to all levels of the company. Because I'm running this program on a state level, I'm acting as a liaison for all of our markets so that I can do evaluations. Because of that, I need access to all different people within the company. I need access to the higher-ups in the company. If I have any issues, I need to be able to go higher and higher up in the company ladder to make sure that I can get those issues resolved. So if a company was going to be able to provide me with that, that was important to me. I needed to know that they had quality technical support. Was there a 24-hour hotline that our markets could contact when they were having trouble with their terminal? In the past, before we moved to a new service provider, I was the technical support, which means that if the market was experiencing a problem with the terminal, I was getting the phone call at 4:30 on a Saturday morning, and I would have to work through them to get that terminal up and running again. I didn't want to do that anymore. I thought that was the responsibility of the company, and I wanted to know that they had a quality technical support program that understood the wireless technology, understood the market situation, and was going to be able to handle this. I also called around to other markets across the country that were using each of the different service providers and asked for their recommendations. That was important to me. And lastly, I looked at how well did I work with each of the people from the different companies as we were, and I needed them to know that this relationship was going to be important. It was important to the program, it was important to its success, and if I felt that we could have a good working relationship, that was going to be important to my decision. So these are the kinds of things that I looked for when we were choosing our service provider. Once we got our funding in place, we got our tokens, got our service provider, we started to look at the tokens we needed to use as our market script. We decided to use a uniform design throughout the state. This allowed us to keep the costs down, so we developed one logo. All we needed to do was change the market name on the back of the token, and we used a serial number token specific to each market so that when farmers redeemed the tokens, they knew what market to take them to. But it also, because they were serialized, made them helped to prevent fraud. It would discourage duplicating the tokens. Having them serialized also helped the markets if they wanted to track the serials through their system. They could do that as well. The other thing is we looked at was the quality of the woods that was used. Okay, how many service providers are there? There's a number of service providers. Somebody just typed in how many service providers are there. I looked at 3 different service providers. Totally unhappy with 2 of them, and then I went with eFunds Corporation, which I think is Fidelity National is another name that they go by. Again, back to the tokens, we wanted to make sure that the woods that were being used was a hardwood. It was sturdy because we wanted these tokens to be recirculated in the market, meaning once the token was sold to the food stamp customer, it was then used with the farmer. The farmer would redeem it back with a market manager. It would be put back in circulation again, resold to the customer, and so forth and so on. So we wanted these to be very sturdy hardwoods. We also wanted to make sure that we had a service provider for these tokens that could turn our order around fairly quickly and accurately. So we did find a provider in Texas that's very good with our tokens, and we have done quite a bit of business with them ever since. Okay. Once we had all of those pieces in place, we know it's not going to be any good if we don't have markets joining the program. So it's that we're going to be operating the EBT program in their individual markets. We're being required to actually do a great deal of work and put forth quite a bit of commitment when they were already overpaid and overworked. So we wanted to acknowledge that and then give them a hand so that they understood what was going to be required before they jumped into this. So we looked at staffing resources, and we said on site you're going to need to have somebody that's there all day, every market day, running that terminal, making transactions. What's important, they needed to understand that this could not be a vendor in the market. They couldn't hand the terminal over to a vendor and have them do the transactions. Having a vendor do that is really quite a conflict of interest. We don't like to do that. If I know that a market is going to use a vendor to run their terminal, then typically we won't put a terminal in that market. We make them wait until they can find either an assistant manager or they can work with an outside organization to partner with to come in and quite a bit of other work they need to do on market day. Off-site, you need to have somebody that's willing to do all the paperwork involved. There's a lot of record keeping that needs to be done. We do provide transaction logs that need to be completed. It tracks all the sales and all the redemptions of the tokens. You need to be able to use that to balance the monthly statements that come from both the service provider and your bank. That does take a little bit of time. And you need to be able to reimburse your farmers on a timely basis for all of the tokens that they are redeeming. It means you've got to count them and record all of this and then write those checks and do it in a timely basis to keep your farmers happy. York, that our state agency does provide us with the funds to reimburse all of the monthly wireless fees and all the EBT transaction fees, but we only do this once a year. So that means all of our markets have to front that money until the end of the season. So they need to know that they have that money available. They also need to pay for all the costs of supplies. They need to pay for any staffing that they might feel they can hire, and all the promotions. We'll help them with giving them the promotional material, some of the promotional materials, the raw data, but they do need to do printing and distribution, that sort of thing. That all has to come from their own financial resources. Beyond that, they have to have the capability to do all of their own outreach. Remember, this is quite a bit of work to bring them back into the food stamp business, or into the farmers market, sorry. So it does take a lot of work, a lot of funding. We do encourage them to develop community partnerships to help them with their outreach, but still it does take time and money. It's also important that they realize it takes some effort within the market itself. They do have to do outreach to their farmers to get them to participate in the program. Okay, let's move on. Once we had all of those pieces in place, we needed to develop the program itself. We needed to develop the procedures for the markets to sign a participation agreement with our organization that brings them into our program. It reserves a terminal for them and sets them on the course for getting into the program. The second step is filling out an application for the food stamp certification. Once that's done, then we get them the applications for the service provider. That gets them their terminal. During all of that, we are working through all of these other steps with them as well. Well, let's talk a little bit about the participation agreements. I do have, if you look under the file share pod, you will see that I've put in the participation agreements there for you to look at. We have two participation agreements. The first one is for the farmers market itself. This gives all of the details of the program. It outlines the rights and responsibilities of the market for participating in the program. Let's see, what else? It talks about how they need to redeem the tokens with the farmers, talks about what the Federation will do for them within the program, and it provides us with information about the market so that we can help promote them. There's the second one is with farmers themselves. Before the farmers can start to accept tokens in the market, they need to sign a participation agreement as well. It talks about their rights and responsibilities within the program as well, talks about what kind of products they can accept food stamp tokens for, talks about how to redeem the tokens, and it also has a hold harmless clause in there so that they cannot come back on the market, or the Federation or our funders if there is a problem. So these are signed and on file before anyone can participate in the program. We do have transaction logs. These are both issuance and redemption logs. These are completed to help us track and evaluate the program, but it also helps our markets to maintain an inventory control of the tokens. It reminds them that these to the market and the farmers accept them. The market will be responsible to redeem them with a farmer. The farmer cannot be held responsible for those tokens. They have no way of knowing that they were lost or stolen, and so they are to be paid for those. So keeping track of all that just kind of reinforces that with the market. These transaction logs are required to be sent to the Federation on a monthly basis. And in a minute, I'm going to show you the transaction log. Go over those. We do provide some signage. To the markets. There's signage. There's a banner that goes with the terminal so that customers coming into the market know where they go to transact tokens. We also provide signage for each of the farmers in the market so that customers know where they can spend their tokens. We do provide training for each of the markets. It talks about everything involved in the program, how to use the terminal, the day-to-day operations of the program in the market. We go through how to use the transaction logs. We talk about their rights and responsibilities, not only for the market, but the farmers and the Federation. We go through all of the promotional materials. We talk about the debit and credit program. And if we have an incentive program running, we go through that in detail as well. And then at the end of the season, we do quite a bit of tracking and evaluation. I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But we do use those transaction logs to help us with that. And we do get quite a bit of data from our state agency, Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, that helps us with those do this evaluation. Okay. Okay, this is our issuance log. This is for the, how does that work? I'm sorry, I'm trying to, there we go. This transaction log helps us to track each market day all of the tokens that are brought to the market and as they're used. I just lost my arrow, hold on. It starts with this first line here. You put in here in this first line the amount of tokens that are brought in to the enter it in the next column over here. The next lines down is going to be all of the sales that you make through the day. As you enter those, it will automatically reduce the balance as you go along. This can be done during market, or it can be done at the end of the day using the receipts off of off your terminal. At the end of the day, you're going to add in this spot here, and in this section you put the redemptions from farmers for the day, and then it will automatically calculate your ending inventory. You can compare that to the inventory that you have on hand at the end of the day. It should also match against your batch settlement off of your terminal. These last two columns over here, this is Health Bucks. This is an incentive program that we have in New York City. We track the serial numbers of the Health Bucks that are issued to each customer. As each of them redeems, we will put the information in each set of columns. The first two columns show the date redeemed and the amount redeemed. And then as the market comes back and makes payment to the farmers, they fill in the next two columns, which is the check number and the date paid. The last column here is going to be a cumulative total for each farmer of the amount they have redeemed over the season. This is important to us because at the end of the season, we need to file reports with both our state agency and with USDA FNS on all of our sales and all of our redemptions. We don't give redemptions based on each individual farmer, but we do on a market-by-market basis. We have to compare that with the sales to the customers because the USDA is looking to show that token sales are not a revenue source for markets. They want to show that the redemption rate for customers is high. They're not just purchasing tokens and not using them. So this is very important. This is how we get that data so that we can make our reports to USDA. The program is operated by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and they are giving coupons to the markets that are operating the EBT program. Whenever a customer purchases $5 in tokens with their EBT benefits, then they are given a $2 coupon where they can purchase additional fruits and vegetables with the farmers in that market. It's just a way to encourage additional sales and encourage food stamp customers to use their benefits at the farmers markets. It's been working very well. I think maybe Mike is going to talk about that maybe a little bit more in his presentation as well.
We will. We definitely will.
Okay, great. So I'll leave it at that and let Mike take it further. We also knew when we started to revamp our program after 2007 that our markets, we developed a promotional program for them. We branded our program. We developed a logo. We developed a unique look to all of our promotional materials. And we put all of this together in a media kit for our markets. We put it on a DVD and gave it to each of our markets in the program, and we gave it to each of the extension offices in those counties. We also put it on our website, so any other partners across the state that wanted to help promote this program, that information was there. On the media kit, we have a poster, and what's interesting about the poster is that in this box right here, where it looks blank, that's actually blank on purpose. That's meant for the markets to put their individual market information. The name, location, times, and days goes in that box. So there's those flyers on there. It's an 11 by 17 actually poster. There's a series of print ads. There's a consumer brochure that's on there, and that consumer brochure I actually put on in the file shared for you. It's called EBT English Brochure. That brochure talks about how to use their benefits at farmers markets and why. and how to effectively shop at a farmer's market. And we included templates for press. We did press releases to print media, to television, and we did do a lot of interviews here. We did with newspapers and with television. We did both live and otherwise. We had quite a lot of media, and we did get AP wire service attention. Once we did that, it was broadcast throughout the state. I believe it was actually broadcast nationally. That helped to get a lot of the local, smaller town media picking up the story, and helped those markets get more interest from their media in getting the stories out. So that was very effective in helping our markets profit. And the goal there is to get those agencies to trickle that interest down and information down to their local levels. We've not been as successful there as we hope to, so we're still working on that. If you look at the bottom button there at www.snaptomarket.com, that's part of the effort to help that trickle down. This is a new website that we just developed. It's only been up and running for a couple of weeks now. Snaptomarket.com is a new website that's geared toward food stamp consumers and service providers. It talks about what they can expect when they go to farmers markets, how to use their benefits there, how to use the product that they're finding at the farmers markets, and there's also a brochure on there for service providers on how they can work with their markets and with their consumers to make this more effective. And we also have incentive programs that help to bring more consumers with food stamp benefits to our markets. And again, I'll leave that to Mike to talk about more. And finally, we do a lot of tracking here at the Federation level. We use our transaction logs that we get on a monthly basis from all of our markets. We look at all of the sales and redemptions, as I've mentioned. We do get information on a customer basis from our state agency. We look at individual customer sales in each of the markets so we can look for trends. We want to know, were we successful in bringing in new customers to the market? Once they were into the market, did they become repeat shoppers? And did their spending increase over time? We look at those kind of trends. Last year we found that about a third of the food stamp customers that shopped became repeat customers, but spending was leveled across the season. We're interested to see if this year makes any difference with the way the economy has been. With our markets, though, we do an end-of-the-season survey. We want to know what kind of obstacles they might have had to success with the program. We want to know how successful they were with the technology. Was the tech support helpful? We want to know what we can do at the state level to help them with any of these issues. And we want to know about the marketing materials. Did they use them, and were they helpful? And most importantly, what can we do? What can we add to our marketing materials to help them next year? So how did it all work out for us? I think you can see where this line is going. The first year, 2007, we were operating with a central terminal system, and we began to think about transitioning our program to be more effective, the way doing the things that we just discussed. After year 6, we were fully operational with a central terminal system. We had 56 markets and 3 mobile markets. In the program, we did about $90,000 in sales. This is when, after this year, is when we did all of this revamping of our program. And in 2008, the revamp was completed. We had 86 farmers markets and 3 mobile markets participating in the program. We did $267,000 in straight EBT transactions. When we add EBT sales through the incentive, we did a promotional program, and you've got farmers markets that are fully involved in building the program. And with that, that's about all I have to say about how we operate on the statewide system. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, I'm certainly available outside of this webinar. And I am going to then Okay, I'm just going to answer this one quick question. Diane just referenced a mobile market. I'm they're going out into the community and stopping at different locations within the community for short periods of time and making sales that way. So we're taking the market to the customer instead of bringing the customer to the market. Okay, I guess I'm done, and I'll give it over to Mike.
Diane, would you mind answering it looks like there might be another couple questions from...
Do we have to pay sales tax when selling tokens? No, in New York State, there's no sales tax on food.
Okay, and it looks there's a question from Janice. Can the surveys used for answering evaluation questions be shared with the group?
Yes, I can make that available to Stacy, and she can put that up. And that's true. Nora just made a good point. In all markets, sales tax cannot be charged on EBT sales. That's true. That's a requirement of the food stamp program. You cannot charge sales tax on any products being sold with food stamp benefits. In New York State, most food is not taxable, although things like soda and candy are taxable, and unfortunately they are eligible for... Okay.
Thank you, Diane. We're going to switch the scene here to open a little questionnaire here. It's just a poll while we're transitioning here. Everyone can kind of respond to this. You just have to click on the answer. There's no enter button. Just once you click on it, it records your response.
Stacy, could you also explain a little bit more how to use the chat room? Is it just entering questions? Because some of us are not seeing all the questions, Anne.
Okay. When a question is asked, when it's typed in, it goes into to the group so that anyone can respond. When it's something specific to one of the presenters, we just hold on to it until someone answers it. And so sometimes the answer gets put out before the question. What we'll make an effort to do from this point on is to make sure that the answer is or the question is selected before an answer is typed, which I think is part of the issue that you're noticing, Susan, is messing up the order, I think, in which you're seeing some things. But I'm glad everyone's asking so many questions. That's great.
This is Kathleen Reed. I had a question about that too, the chat. Do we, I'm not seeing people's questions. Are questions not visible to everyone, or?
They go to another box where Mike, Diane, and myself can see forwarding along the comments so that you'll see them come through into the group. So like Sharon typed, check your state laws on sales tax. There's just a bit of a time lag between when you type something and when it will show up.
Okay.
Should I start?
Yes, get going. It looks like, let's see, the most popular response here is Central Market Terminal with tokens. So, great. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that.
Alexis Stevens, who is our EBT program coordinator. I'm going to give a little background, and then Alexis will dive into the nitty-gritty and of how to implement EBT program at your farmer's market. And as Diane said, since we're New York State, SNAP is not yet part of our vocabulary, and it gets confusing each year with each new term that we use. So we'll probably alternate between EBT and food stamps as well. We at Greenmarket, in many unofficial ways, we're working on implementing wireless technology into our market since 2001, working with the Farmers Market Federation of New York and the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. And in fact, I was not with Greenmarket at the time, but I was a participating farmer in 2001, and I received one of the early terminals, which I described as looking like a cell phone a flip phone that we used in 1993. The technology wasn't very good. In fact, my market was in a dead zone and never got a signal. Our third-party card processor, the statements that we received never matched with what our own book said, and it ended up being a difficult program to implement at our market, which was in a neighborhood where 40% of the homes earned less than $10,000 a year, so the need was significant. At Greenmarket, many of the farmers experienced the same, and we'll get into the two different types of models, and Diane already addressed it. In 2005, Greenmarket implemented the central terminal model at 3 of our markets and brought in about just under $1,000 that year. This year, we have over 60 producers participating at 24 markets accepting EBT, and we've already surpassed last year's total sales, which were over $100,000 at markets. And we attribute this to the outreach, to the incentive programs, and to really building the program over the past, an EBT program at your farmer's market.
Hi, everybody. This is Alexis Stevens. I'm glad to be here and speaking with all of you guys. As Michael said, I'm just going to run through the steps that we took and, recommend to take to implement EBT into your farmer's market. First thing is to determine your model. I know we've talked a little bit about the different kinds of models, and like Michael was saying, Greenmarket has experimented with 2 types of models. One is the central terminal model with the tokens. That's where the market manager has the terminal. They're at the information booth. Customers come to the market manager, swipe their card with the market manager, and then they receive tokens for their food stamp dollars. They can then use their tokens at the market like cash. The other model that we experimented with is the farmer-operated model, and that's where we actually, I think at 1.3 of our markets, we distributed wireless terminals to the farmers. The next thing is you got to apply for an FNS number. You only need to apply for 1 FNS number per market organization. And actually, I do have a document that you could refer to if you are able to access it on the file share, how to apply for an FNS number. So what you need to do that is you need to contact your local FNS field office, and you can go to the USDA website to find out the contact information for that. And it's really great to make an initial contact with somebody and end up working with the same. We're fortunate enough to have a contact in the Albany office who is very familiar with the food stamps in farmers markets program and was able to facilitate and move along a lot of the processes that we had to go through to get FNS number, to find out things like what food stamps can be used for what items and that such. So the next thing is to design or purchase a print paper script. Oh, nope, the next thing is to rent, lease, or purchase a wireless battery-operated terminal. I do also have a handout that is entitled Rent, Lease, or Purchase a Battery-Operated Terminal. These usually come from card service provider companies. They can also come with the state. You should check with your FNS field office to see if they have information on where your farmer's market could get a terminal. If you're actually only accepting EBT, it's possible that you only have to deal directly with FNS, the USDA. But if you are accepting credit or debit cards, you will have to e-funds and payment tech.
There's a question, or actually a comment, that you only need 1 FNS number if you're using a central terminal system, but if individual vendors have their own machine, they need to have their own permits. Here's where there's actually, both are in fact true. When we did our farmer-operated model, all the money came through us, and then we reimbursed the farmers, because our farmers didn't want to sign up individually. They didn't want to submit the paperwork to get their own FNS number. So what we were going to do was we handed out individual terminals to each farmer itself and say to the farmer,
I could do a conference if you want to sit here.
I'm sorry?
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Again, each individual farmer will need his or her own FNS number if it's going through their own account, and they're doing everything on their own, and all the market operator is doing the supplying the terminal. Sorry for that little.
Okay, no, that's fine. So, in 2007, we worked with Card Services International, and in 2008, we changed over, along with Diane Eggert from the Farmers Market Federation, to eFunds. And I think the biggest suggestion we have when you're choosing a third-party processor is just making sure you know and understand that your needs, that your organization is bookkeeping and for your farmers, for your staff, party processor, and make some sort of agreement before you enter into any contracts. The next thing I'm going to talk about, designer purchase tokens or print script. Diane talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to say too much about it. So yeah, you can decide if you are going to choose to use the central terminal model. You can there are two things, a couple of options are the paper script, which can be easier to handle and less cumbersome than the tokens. However, they're more easily counterfeited, and so we've chosen to actually use the tokens.
And just to point out one thing, one of the things that we are experiencing is that shoppers are using other market operators' tokens at our markets, and we're going to need to work with our peers out there of how to do some type of swap program at the end of the year. So if you're a state agency or a city agency with multiple users, this is one of the things you want to think about in designing the token or the script.
Yeah, making sure that they're unique or it's clear to the farmers where the tokens are from and the customers. So the next thing, number 5, train vendors, market managers, how to operate the terminal. I do have a sheet on the file share about that. I believe it's called the Central Terminal Coordinator Guide. And I would suggest, whether you're going to do the farmer-operated model or the central terminal model, to train your managers or your vendors, prior to the first day of the market, and make sure that everybody understands what's expected of them on a market day, are comfortable with the use of machines, and also know where to go for questions and troubleshooting. This document that I have on the file share, I created as kind of to walk, and this is specifically for market managers, but you can do the exact same thing for farmers. Walk them through an entire market day, go through, it's a synopsis of, maybe the larger terminal manual, the one that would actually come with the wireless terminal, of the transactions that they're going to have to go through to the button, press F1, press F2, and then kind of a list of what to do if, and frequently asked questions to make them as most prepared as they could possibly be. And also, I think I would suggest making maybe even a shorter version, like a one-page sheet that could be laminated and kept with the market manager or at the farmer's stand to go to for an immediate answer to. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the train all vendors and script redemption rules and procedures. I think that it's very. I do have a sheet for this, and it's the farmer cheat sheet, how to accept. And this sheet goes through each kind of token program or coupon program that's out there, and explains to them the differences between the tokens. We have a number of things going out there in the market. We have the EBT tokens, we have the debit to credit tokens, we have the health bucks, we have the senior FMMP, we have the WIC FMMP, and we have the new monthly WIC fruit and vegetable checks. So that's a lot of different things to keep track of. Each of them has a different redemption process. Most of them can be used for different items. So it's really nice and helpful for market managers and farmers to kind of have a very short list of what each of these items are. And I would actually suggest putting a picture too as kind of like a guide to is floating around there at the market. I'm sure in time people are learning, and it's a process, but there's bound to be a confusion with all the stuff that's going on out there.
Okay. So, as we talked about before, we have had implemented two different models. Originally in 2005, we started off with the central terminal token model, also in 2006. And then in 2007, we decided, you know what, we know best. We think that we can re-implement the individual farmer terminal model, and it's going to work. There's better technology out there. We think there's greater demand, and we're going to try this. Now, so for 2 years, we had employed at our larger markets. We equipped 24 individual farmers with terminals, and the advantage to this is obviously you don't need to pay somebody to stand there all day long to operate the terminal, and then collect the tokens, and then enter that into a spreadsheet, and then bring that back into the office and enter it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then match that with the statement you get from the credit card company, and then cut the check. We thought that this would take out the administrative burden that's related to the central terminal model. And what we learned was that, one, the technology wasn't quite there yet. Now, the terminals we now use through eFunds is significantly better than the link point terminals that we had through Card Services International. But even still, we know that a lot of the times the farmers didn't charge terminals, didn't bring them. Maybe there still was a dead zone and transactions were taking far too long. And it was felt more of a burden, where we had to do a lot of hand-holding and pushing and convincing to participate, rather than it being a slam dunk. That there also wasn't a significant amount of credit card sales as an incentive to have the terminal, and there was not nearly enough EBT sales as an incentive for farmers to say, wow, I really want to do this on my own. And what we had done, rather than, originally our plan was, we'll equip each farmer, they'll sign up, they'll get their own FNS number, their own account, and many of our farmers were resistant to doing that. They didn't want to fill out the extra paperwork, didn't want to share additional information with agencies, and certainly didn't want to have to deal with the credit card companies at the time. And so we said, you know what, we'll do the hand-holding, we'll do the technical assistance, we'll do the troubleshooting with Card Services International. And what Card Services International will do is break down by individual statement each terminal, and it'll be so much easier than having the central terminal. And in theory, it was great until we were waiting for our first statement from Card Services, and they said, you know what, we're not going to be able to break it down by terminal for you, and you're going to have to figure this out on your own. And that's when we realized, and we had a great representative at Card Services, Richard Holton, who I don't know if he's still there, but he's wonderful. But there was not a will at Card Services to really implement what needed to be implemented and what is capable of being implemented, which is breaking this down by terminal. So we decided we're going to scrap this program, and we're only going to go to the central terminal model. And we have a number of markets that are in the highest, the districts with the highest amount of food stamp eligible families. And in New York City, I think there are about $830 million of food stamps available in the city, and that's with just over a 50% enrollment rate for food stamp eligible families. That's a significant amount of dollars that are available for farmers, as we all know, and it's also a real need to get fresh, healthy foods into communities that need it the most. So our central terminal model, much of what Diane described and what we've been talking about thus far, we have a market manager at every market, and at some markets where EBT sales are over $1,000 per day, we have a market manager to deal with the cooking demos, operations, ed education, nutritional education, and then another manager who's specifically there to operate the terminal, address questions related to EBT, about food access, okay, so and also that individual staff person is able to interact with each customer. We have if we're in a Spanish-speaking neighborhood, we have a Spanish-speaking market manager. In one community that's overwhelmingly Chinese, we have a Mandarin-speaking market manager. Gives the market manager the time to troubleshoot with the machine rather than a farmer who's more interested in making sales and interacting with customers. And it also gives one central location to provide eligibility on food information on food stamp eligibility, nutrition ed. We bring in partner organizations to do food stamp screenings. We have some markets in the past we've had Cornell Cooperative Extension. Now we have the Department of Health come in and do cooking demos and nutritional ed demos. And it also has one central location to really have all signage posted and to coordinate market-wide. And what this says here is last year our highest selling token market brought in just over $25,000, and actually it's probably already two times that this year, and yesterday was the highest selling day ever at a market at $4,500 at Poe Park yesterday in the South Bronx. So we've been talking about what we've learned about the different models. The central terminal model, the farmers don't have to deal with operating the terminal. The person swiping the cards is trained about food stamps, about how to apply, where offices are located. They get time to make sure transactions are processed. If there's a dead zone, they can process offline. And again, there might be a line there, but it's not hindering a farmer's ability to make sales. It also means that a central terminal market, every farmer, or actually every producer with a product there that's eligible to be purchased with food stamps can in fact accept them. At the markets where we handed out individual terminals, at some markets we didn't even have enough terminals to hand out to everybody. And here it's only one terminal per market, so less money is spent on wireless fees and on the terminals themselves. Now, there is an administrative cost associated with this. I described the process. Person comes up, swipes their card. That gets recorded on a spreadsheet, this individual sale, how many tokens went out. At the end of the day, tokens then get collected by the manager, has to get recorded which farmer receives how much back. At a market where there's 35 producers or where there's $4,500 in sales, that takes a lot of time. And then you're coming back to the office and entering it into a computer spreadsheet, and then it has to be reconciled with a statement from the processor, which isn't always accurate, so there's some troubleshooting that has to take place there, whether it's, depending on the size of the organization, whether it's, if it's a smaller staff, then there's even a larger burden on that staff. If you're fortunate enough to have someone whose main job this is, then you're still, it's costly. And we are entirely grant dependent upon the survival of our EBT program. The farmer-operated model, the pros were customer, and I will say that our philosophy is that eventually our goal is that it is a farmer-operated model. That the technology is there where it's a 2-second transaction, 3-second transaction. Maybe there's a chip in the card and the farmer's cell phone is able to process the transaction. I know that already there's an iPhone application for processing credit cards, and that, who knows, 5 to 10 years, hopefully that's where we're going to go. Because I don't know if the central terminal is a sustainable model. But for right now, we are convinced it's the best model to make markets able to accept and to encourage farmers to participate in the program. And the pros are customers can shop directly at the stand. It's less confusing for the customer. There's no need to have tokens. Money gets deposited directly into farmers' accounts, and there's more responsibility on the farmers' part. They're really vested in the process. Now, I think the current reality is that, or at least our current reality, and I want to phrase that. I know that there are other people who are doing this model that have had incredible success with it. Our experience was that it actually did reduce the chance that farmers might accept EBT. As simple as, I loaded the truck last night, and I was up till midnight loading the truck with products. I didn't charge it. I forgot it. I'm sorry. And consistency to us is customers knowing year in, year out that it's available at that market is what leads to success at that market. Again, we've had experience with card service companies not necessarily able to track EBT credit and break it down. And it actually can be more expensive, at least now, as more time is spent troubleshooting, as there are more terminals in use, there are more fees, there's more pieces to the puzzle.
Okay, so now I am going to talk to you about outreach. So really cannot stress the importance of outreach, advertising, education, about food stamps, using your food stamps at the farmers markets, and why it is so important to shop at farmers markets, like how, why it's healthier for you, why it tastes better because it's fresher, and also I think one of the things is kind of trying to show people that it's not always more expensive to shop with their to shop at farmers markets or at their EBT at farmers markets. So we have three goals mainly when we think about what do we want, our outreach for the season, and what do we want to do this season. And the first one is that every person walking through a market that accepts EBT must be aware that they can shop with their EBT or their credit cards at that market. And I can never stress enough the importance of signage at our market. I recently conducted a survey with the Department of Health on EBT farmers markets, and also the survey was about health bucks in farmers markets. But the sample size was 422 people. It was at 7 markets, and when we asked people, how did you hear about this market, and how did you know that this market accepted EBT? Both of them, it was about 50% knew that the market was there, and 50% knew that they could use their EBT cards just by walking by or by seeing signs at the market. Secondly, it's that community residents in the area that have EBT, that already have that interest in shopping at farmers markets and eating fresh food, know that there's a market in it there, and know that farmers market accepts EBT. And also, there's a huge education aspect to this program. Like I was saying before, educating EBT recipients about the benefits of shopping at Greenmarket, about the health benefits, about how it tastes so much better, and also environmentally better, and the economic advantages, and that it's community building. So I guess next I'm going to go into. So I guess now I'm just going to go into a little bit more about how we did that and the strategies that we used to kind of carry out those goals or meet those goals. For advertising and when you're making flyers and outreach materials, I can't stress enough to use the EBT card somewhere in there. Pictures cross language barriers and they're widely recognized, and in New York City we're absolutely dealing with people that do not speak English and low literacy. So when they see the card, EBT card, they have it, they just are like, oh, I'm going to pay attention because I have that. I do have a flyer on the file share that says, do you have EBT? And it's really simple. I like it a lot. It's just a picture of a card, and it literally just says, do you have EBT? There's a farmer's market here, and it lists the address of the farmer's market. I think that this is something that any farmer's market organization can put together. So simple, but we've actually also found it to be incredibly effective. Another thing is to know your audience. Make sure that all outreach materials are in appropriate languages, and that you're strategically reaching out to the food stamp community. we wouldn't, you can't, if you are in a high, I guess this is obvious, but if you're in a neighborhood where there's 50% of the community speaks Spanish, you need to have materials in Spanish, or the same with Chinese, or the same with Hebrew or Yiddish, or so another thing is like I think we talked about a little bit, advantages of the central terminal model, that the market manager's table is a great place to hang signs and put informational brochures about the program, how to use your food stamps in this farmers market, about the benefits of using food stamps in farmers market, and also maybe other things like how do I enroll in food stamps if people think they may be eligible, or also lead them to other food service programs in the area. I guess the next is, one of the things I think is important is make sure, never underestimate the power of word of mouth. Make sure that when people go to your market, that they have a great experience shopping with their EBT cards. They feel welcome. Market managers are friendly. I think that another one of the high things, I think it was about 17% from that survey that I was talking about, did find out that they could use their food stamps at the market because they heard it from a friend or relative. So hopefully that, it was a good thing. They're like, oh, that was great. I just used my food stamps at the farmer's market. Not like, oh, that was, I thought I could do that, but it was really confusing, or that person was mean to me. So. So one of the other things that I did include, you guys, and I do think this will be useful to I think it's a very useful thing to market organizations. This is a comprehensive list. I think it's the Greenmarket EBT outreach plan, and that is kind of the thing that I give all of our market managers as kind of like a checklist of who to try to reach out to in their market neighborhood. And so it's like WIC centers, senior centers, community gardens. It's a very long list, and also gives tips for contacting these different types of organizations. So another thing that Greenmarket has actually been able to do, because we've received generous funding from the City Council, Speaker Quinn, is we've actually been able to take out advertisements in newspaper, the radio, public transportation. This year, for the past 3 years, we've actually had ads on the subways and the buses, and we have had some coverage by local television, news stations. A great thing to do is to go to your community board, and also network with websites and community groups. I guess, just take a look at it's called the Greenmarket 2-sheet, and that's actually the ad campaign, or the ad that we use for our campaign in the newspapers and the subways. And just to kind of give you a general sense of how we go about doing it. Again, picture of the EBT card, simple but catchy logo, turn your food stamps into fresh, affordable food, and then also a picture of someone having a great time using their food stamps at the market. So yeah, I think that it's just outreach is really important. One of the best ways that we find to kind of reach out to people and to educate them about shopping at the farmers market is face-to-face interaction. If there's a community center in your area or a WIC center in your area, call them up, ask them can I have a representative from my market come and talk to people face-to-face. You can answer questions. It's more personalized, and we found it to be extremely, it works and it's beneficial to the community. I think lastly, all I'm going to say is that there are some stigmas about shopping with food stamps. Farmers markets are expensive, market hours are inconvenient, shopping is more complex. Shopping at farmers market is a lot different. If you've only shopped at a grocery store before, it might be a little bit intimidating to show up, and there's these farmers and there's these stands, and you have to go get tokens. Very confusing. So limited discounted pricing, some that there's not sales, there's like sales at the grocery store, there's coupons at the grocery store. There absolutely are these things at the farmers market, maybe at the end of the day or when things are high in season, but it's just understanding and educating about seasonality. or I guess physical barriers. It can be hard for seniors to actually make it to the market if they, maybe don't drive and or they have a hard time walking too far, or maybe it's too hard to bring your stroller there.
But we think these are all stigmas that actually can be proven to be untrue very easily. And each one can be addressed in their own individual way, and that's part of the process of encouraging and outreaching and getting folks to come shop at farmers markets. Now, we have an incredible partner in the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in New York City. And before I get into the health buck conversation, I want to talk to you about what the Bronx District Public Health Office did. In 2007, they conducted a survey of shopping in the South Bronx. And what they found was that shoppers in the South Bronx, one, preferred to shop at the farmers markets in the South Bronx. They came to farmers markets for value, price, and convenience and quality. And that of the people who were shopping at farmers markets, there was a higher intake of fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, they didn't believe that they knew that they saw the respondents, but they didn't believe the affordability issue. They said there's no way the farmers markets in the South Bronx are less expensive than the supermarkets. So in 2008, they conducted a price comparison between farmers markets, corner stores, and supermarkets. And what they found was, in fact, it was mostly a wash. A few products were less expensive here, a few products were less expensive there, but that, of course, farmers markets had a greater diversity, and their staff researchers said, please don't make me go back to those supermarkets. They're disgusting, and I would never buy the produce for myself. So in 2009, they're doing the third and final part of their series of studies, and they're actually doing they're evaluating the nutritional content, the shelf life, and the quality of the products at both the farmers market and the supermarket to sort of wrap it all together. And this is what provides, we're not able here at Greenmarket, we don't have the budget or the staff or the expertise to conduct these types of studies. And this is what's going to provide us with the information and the ammunition, basically, to really say, look, we're providing a real service in communities. And this year we're going to surpass, we're probably going to get to about $250,000 in food stamp sales, which is a lot of food that wasn't available 3 years ago in communities that need access the most and that have the highest rates of food-related illnesses. And when you tie in the Health Buck program, which Diane began to introduce, the District Public Health Office about 4 years ago started this in 3 neighborhoods, and they chose the 3 neighborhoods with the highest rates of diabetes and obesity in New York City to implement the program, where they were going to give a $2 Health Buck coupon. It's very similar to Farmers Market Nutrition Program. It's only available for fresh fruits and vegetables. It's a $2 coupon, and there was a total of $15,000 available 4 years ago. So 5,000 went to Central Brooklyn, 5,000 went to the South Bronx, and 5,000 went to East and Central Harlem. And what we did at Greenmarket, in fact, Callie Robbins-Breen, who's on the phone, who's in New Orleans now at Crescent City Market, what she decided to do was, instead of just hand them out indiscriminately and hope that someone's going to come back to the market, we're going to tie it to EBT. And for every $5 that someone spends on EBT at the market, they're going to get a 40% boost in buying power and get a free $2 coupon. And what this really did was incentivized customers to use their EBT dollars on fresh fruits and vegetables. And I don't know if we have we don't have the slide in this PowerPoint, but another PowerPoint, what it shows is, at our markets, 92 or 3% of sales, EBT sales at our market, are on fresh fruits and vegetables. And then it's meats, dairy, and some of the baked goods that are less healthy, but just going to purchase healthy food. And when you can have that 40% increase in purchase power, it really does bridge. You know, we can say EBT is available, but if you don't have money to spend at the end of the month, you don't have money to spend at the end of the month. It doesn't matter if our markets are just as affordable as the supermarket or not. Once you run out, you're done. And this really does help to bridge the gap. And it is an incentive for folks to shop at farmers markets. And again, this is food that's going into communities that 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it wasn't going there. And now it is at a much more significant level because we advocated to the city, Greenmarket did, to the city to really see the Health Box program as one of the key programs to addressing health issues in New York City. And we're actually advocating on a national level. I think this should be a national program, and I don't even think it should be means tested. I think health insurance companies should have a Health Box program, but that's for another day and another conversation. But last year, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene increased the Health Box program from 15,000 to about 175, 180,000. And with that increase, we were able to, our farmers brought in $80,000 in Health Box. So between $100,000 in EBT sales and $80,000 in Health Box, again, I keep hammering home this one statement, but it's $180,000 that went to farmers last year that 3 years ago wasn't available. And that's a lot of food that went to communities that need it the most. And we see this as a real win-win. It's going to promote health. It's enabling folks to purchase more healthy foods, and it's going directly into farmers' pockets who need it the most.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of wrap things up here with, these are our 2008 highlights, and then I'll jump in and talk about 2009 a little bit. So I guess the success of our program has just increased over time from year to year. 2005, we started off with 3 markets accepting EBT, and our sales totals were $1,000 for that year. 2008, you can see on the slide, we had 16, 17 of our farmers markets accepted EBT. We launched a major outreach campaign on subway, bus, and print ads. Also, we had our staff, our market managers, going out there into the community, flyering, making presentations, making strategic partners with partnerships with community organizations in the area. There was that major increase in the Health Box program in 2008, and our total EBT sales grew from 2007. They were $30,000 to over $100,000 in 2008. This year, 23 of our markets, so we're very proud to say almost half of our markets, soon to be 24 of our markets, accept EBT. Also, our sales to date, I guess it was September 10th is the date, are over $120,000. So we absolutely expect our sales this year to be well over $200,000. And I'm not sure exactly what our Health Box redemptions are going to be like, but I imagine it's going to be grow accordingly to the increase in our food stamp sales.
And just to wrap it up, you'll see here that farmers and shoppers are so are appreciative of the opportunity, see it impacting their lives. It's such a good thing for market. And again, you know, our mission is to make sure that all New Yorkers have access and see this as crucial to the work that we're doing.
I work at one of our farmers markets, Grand Army Plaza, as somebody who is actually there on the ground selling the tokens, and every day someone new comes to me and is thanking me so much. We're so glad you're here. This is so cool that you guys can do this. I'm so happy I can use my food stamps here.
And you know, we talk about numbers. We haven't even, it's a drop in the bucket for what's available for farmers and the impact that we can have in communities. That's us in a nutshell.
Thanks.
One
Mike
question
and
here,
Alexis.
a link to the price quality comparison study. I have a link to the original study that was done in 2007. Department of Health is hasn't released yet the price study, but we can get one-pagers, And the quality comparison is being conducted right now, and will be final. The data collection will be finished in November, and then as soon as this information is released, Stacy will absolutely have it immediately and disseminate it to the community.
That'd be great. It looks like we're getting a few other questions as well.
I don't know the
Jeff
source
wanted
of
to know
funding.
about who funded the subway bus and the print
Oh,
ads.
The Human Resources Administration.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say it. Okay, so HRA, the Human Resources Administration, the people who actually administer the food stamp program, they are the ones that funded the increase in health buck program for the EBT program and specifically. So they're the one that gave that money that was allowed that huge increase in money available in health bucks. And the Department of Health, well, the Department of Health administers all the money, but they also give a small amount for a community outreach program where they actually just give away health bucks to people as an incentive to shop at the market.
And then Caroline is asking how long did it take to disperse the health bucks to customers at the markets?
We do it with the transaction. So someone comes up, swipes the card, they're made knowledgeable about the program, and say that if they spend $5, they'll get the coupon, and it happens immediately.
Yeah, they just give the coupons out right with the tokens. It's a little bit difficult keeping track of them. That's another story. But
Diane can chime in here. I see some folks talking about the $1.50 surcharge. You can do that with debit, but you can't. It actually is technically a violation of our agreement with the credit card company to charge a surcharge with credit cards, and we're not willing to take the risk, though I wish that I was. But it is definitely a way to help fund the program.
Caroline says, you said you had it 5,000. How long did that take to disperse?
oh, the health box?
Well, I mean, let's say yesterday at Pope Park.
I think she's talking about.
No, I know.
Oh.
There were $4,500 in EBT sales. What's that? 900 the equivalent of 900 health bucks. So it really depends on the volume of sales. It could be, and the community outreach that you're doing. It really depends on the market. It could take a short while at one market and much longer at another market.
Lisa's asking about cooking demonstrations or health education and who fulfills that role.
It's a combination. At some markets, we do it. In the past, Cornell Cooperative Extension had a program that did it at 8 of our markets. That program is no longer funded. There's now a new program called the Stellar Market Program through the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and they're at some of our markets. And it's why at some markets we have both a market manager and an EBT market manager, so that the market manager can be doing that work while someone else is working directly on issuing tokens and health bucks.
We also have volunteer trainings and train volunteers to go out and do cooking demos at our markets. And there's an additional interest with chefs in the area who have an interest in local food, and they come into the market and do recipes for and teach people at the market their cooking tips.
And it sounds like we'll have a great comparison to put on the FMC website in our resource library when that's available this winter. So that'll be nice to look at. And it looks like we've gone over time here, the time that we've allotted anyway. So if there are any other questions, please go ahead and type them in, and we can address them as soon as promptly as possible.
Can I make one last comment?
Of course.
I forgot to mention during the presentation is the Human Resources Administration who oversees the food stamp program in New York City. And whether it's Human Resources Administration in New York City or whatever it is in the city or town or state that you're operating in, having a relationship with them is crucial. For 4 years, we asked them, will you please either mail to food stamp recipients where they can shop at use food stamps at farmers markets, or will you let us pay for those names, or will you let us pay for a mailing? And they never did anything. And then last year, they finally agreed to send a mailing notifying food stamp EBT participating families where they could use EBT and at Health Buck related markets. And that week, sales went up by a third immediately, and they remained consistent throughout the remainder of the year. So having a relationship with the person that's administering, the organization or agency that's administering the food stamp program in your jurisdiction is crucial. They are a key player in spreading the word and encouraging folks to shop at farmers markets.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating today, and I hope that you'll all share the recorded session and the PowerPoints and the handouts with your colleagues who maybe couldn't participate today. And after this session, when we close this, there will be a window that should pop up in your browser that just asks you about 5 or 6 little evaluation questions that ask you for some feedback, so that we can know what, if this session met your expectations and what other issues surrounding EBT that you'd like more training opportunities on. So we'd really appreciate it if you can answer those few questions before you kind of shut down and move to something else for the rest of the day. But we really appreciate everybody's time today, and this was a really great presentation. And please look for more opportunities like this. Maybe not, we'll probably take a break over the winter, but hopefully in the spring we'll be able to start up again with some other sessions, and I hope you can visit some of the previous sessions that we have on the Information Marketplace website, which is www.farmersmarketcoalition.org/information-marketplace. So thanks again to everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Stacy.